What's this?
Well, Russia says that the U.S. is secretly moving ISIS terrorists out of prison cells in Syria into Iraq to prepare to launch an attack against Iran. I know
Yay!
it sounds crazy, but
These are the ISIS prisoners that committed genocide of Christians in Syria. They're being mobilized to commit atrocities in Iran.
why, it's perfectly normal. We love to team up with ISIS. We love to team up with terrorists on a regular basis. Here is the report. The West planning to use former ISIS militants against Iran. According to the head of Russia's FSB, Western spy agencies are intending to use Syrian militants as a proxy force against Iran. I mean, it doesn't sound like the West really wants peace with Iran after all. And if you read their latest report from Al Arabiya...
That's what I said. Remember what I said? It's what they did before. It was Syria. And they just put pressure and pressure and pressure until Syria toppled. That's the idea with Iran. Put pressure and pressure and pressure. So they're now going to mobilize these ISIS fighters to put pressure. There's no breaks. There's no like, okay, we failed, let's stop. That's not what they're doing, either in Ukraine or Iran. Trump isn't part of it, so he might try to get a deal, but they'll make it so politically costly, what they're doing right now, that he can't. And that's why I'm saying the rest of the world needs to get together and override this whole system and force Trump to peace. And then CIA, the dark side of that, might try stuff on its own, but I don't think it'll get far.
Which got its hands on the quote-unquote final draft of a U.S.-Iran peace memorandum. This thing seems to be a non-starter for Iran. It's like a laundry list of things the United States wants that Iran probably will not go along with. Here are just a few highlights, though. The reopening of the Strait of Hormuz to international navigation without taking any fees or tolls. Possibility of sanctions being slowly removed from Iranian oil that would happen in phases.
And, no, forget that. Fuck that.
You can definitely...
Yeah, Obama said they'd remove sanctions too slowly in phases, and then Trump ripped that up.
They trust the United States government, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So in phases, like this will happen over the course of many, many years, perhaps. That's probably a non-starter for Iran. And the end of military operations as well by Iran, including assisting in Lebanon. I'm sure that there would be an Israeli component of that as well. Please stop bombing southern Lebanon. All of that to say, this doesn't seem like it's coming to fruition. So what's in it for Iran? And where do things go next? And Iran has said, we will strike back against this recent round of attacks against our country. Colonel Douglas Macgregor is back with us to examine all of that. So, Colonel, when you hear about this FSB story out of Syria, the idea that the United States is secretly grabbing ISIS militants, rounding them up, arming them, moving them to Iraq, presumably to attack Iran, are you surprised by this? What do you make of it?
Well, no, I'm not surprised at all. They were CIA agents to begin with. Their purpose was to overthrow Assad, and now we have another purpose for them.
Last time I looked, we established a government in Damascus that took control of Syria. That was essentially a group of ISIS graduates or Al-Qaeda members and so forth. So this sort of thing has been going on forever in the region. The Mossad.
Yeah, if replacing Iran by a group of the Islamic Republic by a group of ISIS extremists, the United States would be all too happy with that, as long as those ISIS extremists were loyal to the United States. And by the way, ISIS extremists, they'd make everything worse for all population in Iran. Unfortunately for them, Iran is 93 million. It's huge. They don't have enough ISIS extremists to make a dent in Iran.
As you implied, is very good at this. They know how to manipulate the various groups and turn them against each other. I think that's what we're trying to do now with Iran. But this is another measure of how desperate we are. I mean, this is not going to change anything, and the Iranians are eminently well equipped to deal with that. And remember that when they tried to arm and send over a group of Azeri Turks that were from just across the border, also along with some Kurds, the Turkish military intelligence actually warned the Iranians, and the Iranians were able to annihilate the group before it ever got into the country. I think the Iranians can handle this, but the problem is that this sort of thing reinforces the conviction in Tehran that any...
About that, Proton Style, I can't answer you. Remember, we live in the age of AI, so you can make an AI clip of Kennedy saying anything you want. And there's some people that would, today, the people who hate Israel, that would latch on to that. And again, great way to discredit anti-Israel people. Make a fake clip of JFK condemning expansionist ideology of Israel. float that around the Israeli hating crowd, and then you can use that. You can then attack them, saying, "Look, they believe this fake AI nonsense. The people that hate Israel are just believe in propaganda and AI nonsense. That's the reason they hate Israel."
The agreement reached with us is worthless. That we're not going to stand by anything. We can't be trusted. We lie all the time. And so what's the rationale for signing anything?
If you want to know if it's real, find a website that references it that's more than 5 years old. And like a news story that talks about Kennedy was condemning the expansionist ideology in Israel. And if it's a website more than 5 years old and in the Wayback Machine, then you know it's real.
With us under any circumstances. That's the bad news. That's why this is a really bad idea.
Well, but it's not unusual because the United States has supported MEK, which was a terrorist group designated until 2012 when Obama decided they weren't any longer because they were designated as helpful. It's totally in character, right?
Yes, that's what I say. I don't think the Iranians feel particularly threatened by this. This is something they can handle. They know the region better than we do, and they certainly understand what they're dealing with in the Israeli camp. It's also...
Soon navigating. This is the last one. I'm probably not going to watch all of it.
Reminiscent of what we did after World War II and the Carpathians in Western Ukraine. We armed all of the people that were called Banderites that had been part of the sort of rogue organizations loosely associated with the Nazis, and some were directly, but a group of nationalists who were willing to fight to the bitter end, so we armed them. And in fact, it was Jaruzelski, who is a Polish officer at the time, young officer, who endeared himself to his Soviet masters by going into the mountains, rooting them out, and killing them. This is not new. We've done this. The Israelis have done it. The British are very good at it. The problem I have with it, though, is that if you're really interested, and I don't think we are, frankly, but if you're really interested in coming to an agreement that has any chance of lasting about the Persian Gulf and in our relations with Iran right now, this is not something you do. You can't conceal it. Everybody finds out.
Right.
It's
I mean,
so
it's all
stupid.
over the newspapers now. It's pretty obvious. So just a few minutes ago, President Trump was said that the Strait of Hormuz will be open to everyone. It will not be controlled by any country under any deal reached with Iran. There will be no discussions about easing sanctions on Tehran. So that's of course a huge piece of the Iranian part of their deal, removing of the sanctions, and that they will control the Strait of Hormuz. So, and then Iran also, of course, saying that they will respond, retaliate for these recent attacks over the weekend. There doesn't seem to be any end in sight to this.
No, I haven't heard or seen anything that I would describe as meaningful. I mean, how do you follow these tweets
3 months, give or take a month, is my timeline for this being solved.
and come up with some sort of coherent strategy or policy? I mean, if you're a schizophrenic, maybe you understand what he's talking about, but the rest of us with normal minds, no, we can't figure it out. And his policies change from tweet to tweet, as you just pointed out. And it's ridiculous. First of all, somebody said somewhere along the line that possession was 9/10 of the law. Well, here's a blinding flash of the obvious. Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. We don't. So I don't know who he's kidding. Secondly, and we've talked about this before, we have something called the Montreux Convention, which was signed in 1926 after World War I by the various belligerents, co-belligerents, and they decided that Turkey should control the strait, and everybody agreed to the conditions under which the strait would be governed. Turkey signed up for it. We've never had any problems with the Dardanelles. The Turks have done an excellent job of conducting ships in and out of it. I think something similar is going to happen in the Strait of Hormuz, and I imagine that Iran will end up, if it's not the major factor in it, it'll probably be de facto the controlling authority. And that's not surprising. They control most of the coastline that is on the Strait of Hormuz. And again, they have an incentive to keep it running and keep it flowing because they too want the oil and the gas and all the other things that are missing now, fertilizer, sulfuric acid, hydrogen, nitrogen, and so forth, from being everything's being kept inside the Gulf. They want to get it out. So I don't see a problem. But this doesn't have anything to do with rationality. There is no rationality involved in this. You're dealing with two serious problems. Number one, Israel. Israel has veto authority over anything that President Trump decides.
For now, the Israeli lobby, is extremely powerful. But again, the rest of the world combined is more powerful. And if the rest of the world combined tells Trump to knock this off, Israel lobby can just go get fucked because their influence is pales in comparison.
To do. He is not in charge. He is responding to Netanyahu. The demands he sets forth in front of the Iranians and says, these are the things you must do. They're not our demands. Those are Israeli demands. So somehow or another, how do you break the hold that Netanyahu has on President Trump and the United States government? Nobody in Congress is going to stand up and jeopardize their income if they oppose the Israel lobby and effectively say no to Mr. Netanyahu. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is President Trump.
Problem number one will be solved by I mean, if the entire rest of the world, China, Europe, Africa, South America, all got together and say, yeah, fix this, or like, no more trading with you. Like, if the rest of the world certain sanctions against the United States, as one example, or they wouldn't even have to. I think just the rest of the world combined telling Trump to do something, or yeah, it's right before the midterms. Yeah, the rest of the world, if they act together, can crash the United States economy, and they have more leverage than the Israeli lobby.
Trump and his personality and his fear of being castigated and humiliated for having done this stupid thing, and attacking Iran was a very dumb idea. Anybody with any sense knew that, and there's nothing that justifies the total mobilization for war that it would require for us to take control of Iran. We're not going to implement a draft and bring over a million people to run all over the countryside and control Iran. It's ridiculous. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody will support it. So how does he get out of it without embarrassing himself? I think that's a serious problem. And if you turn to Mr. Netanyahu and his agents inside the United States, the billionaires that put Trump where he is, and you tell them, well, I'm sorry, guys, I can't go any further. This has to stop, so I'm pulling the plug. They're going to look at him and say, well, then we're pulling the plug on you, my friend. We're taking away the billions of dollars that we've helped you get. We're subtracting those from your side of the ledger. More important, we're not going to protect you anymore from the attacks that you're going to sustain from.
It's not just the Israeli lobby. There is the mainstream media that's not really controlled by Israel. That's the U.S. deep state. That'll turn on him too, if he tries to sign a deal. And then there's Asmongold. Asmongold will turn on Trump. If he finds out, oh, Trump is surrendering to Iran, then what the fuck was this war? Why are I paying high? Yeah, Asmongold goes wild, and he represents the big majority of people still supporting Trump. So his support just craters. He becomes failed president. And so Trump won't do that willingly. We'll have to force him to do it.
Congress will eat you alive without us. So if you don't do what we say, you've had it. Those are the grim facts.
And also, we will release the compromat and whatever's hidden in these Epstein files that we've enabled you to hide for the rest of.
No, that's coming out as an October surprise anyway. Regardless, I'm sure. The Democrats have set it up. They've released some of the files so far. They've hinted at it for so long. They have something. It won't be credible. That's why it needs to be released right before the November the midterm elections, so there isn't time to disprove it or to research it and to figure out, oh, these allegations against him that are buried in the Epstein files are fake. So they'll release it right before the midterm elections to hurt Trump and Republicans. That's my prediction.
You know, the millions of documents that we still are not allowed to see as a result of it. I think you're absolutely right. Where do you think what do you think happens next here? I mean, are we heading back to a full-scale hot war?
I feel like Richard Nixon. I'm glad you asked that question, because there are some other things that we don't usually mention that we really do need to talk about. A lot of people don't seem to understand that inflation in April jumped from 3.2 to 3.8%. Projections for the next quarter or two suggest that we may hit 6% inflation. Well, if you
6%, isn't that fun?
Go up to 5% or 6% inflation, that means that your interest rates should be fixed at 6% or 7%. Right now, they are fixed at 3.75%, below inflation. Now, what does this mean? This means if you try to fix it and suppress the inflation and you raise those rates, our financial system will collapse. The economy won't survive it. You know, we now have the president has also dipped into the SPR, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Remember when Biden...
It's intentional. That they've changed the way inflation is calculated several times to lower inflation. It's one of the scams of the government, and they do that because so much of payments by the government are linked to inflation. True inflation. Yeah, this is what you need. If the way inflation was calculated remained the same between all the whole time, it would be the blue one. Then they slowly changed the way it's calculated, and they came up with this inflation number. That is, and if you use this number, like Social Security payments would be a whole hell of a lot higher than they are today. Rather, there's a constant, 5% gap between inflation that's reported and actual inflation. It's worth a whole entire video looking at that someday. But yeah.
Biden did this, and this was during COVID, and Trump spoke out and raged against it, saying this was irresponsible and so forth. Well, I found out yesterday that he sold something in the neighborhood of 17.8 million barrels of oil just this within the last week as an effort to suppress the prices of oil, to keep it below $110 per barrel. Well, the problem with this is at this rate, our strategic petroleum reserve will probably be exhausted by the end of July, beginning of August, especially since he's also sold below market price unknown quantities of oil to some of our Asian friends. Now, doubtlessly, this was done because, after all, he never bothered to ask them what they thought about his dumb idea of attacking Iran. And this is trying to ease the damage. But this is not a long-term solution. This is all short-term thinking. What happens when you hit bottom on this strategic petroleum reserve? What happens when you can't skirt or skate away from the...
Yeah, that's what's going to happen this summer. That's why 3 months. 3 months after, at the end of 3 months, all the manipulation ends. For absolute, there's no manipulation left to do, and oil prices skyrocket. It's probably going to happen at the end of June, beginning of July, naturally. But if Trump is determined to completely empty the strategic oil reserves, he might be able to keep it going till maybe beginning of August. But that's it.
The consequences. You know, right now people think that when all the chickens come home to roost, and I'm talking about everything, the loss of oil around the world and the gas and the minerals and everything else, we could see as much as a 36% reduction in the size of the global economy. Now, why is that important?
Yes. Because you go back in time, you look at what the current amount of oil available for this year is, and you go back in time when the global economy used that amount of oil. And at that time, the global economy was 36% smaller. And that's how you come up with a number that the global economy could shrink by 36%.
During the Great Depression, the world economy was reduced by 20%. However, we had an advantage, believe it or not, during the 30s in the United States. And one advantage that we had was that all of our allies during World War I owed us lots of money because we'd sold them not just weapons and bullets and so forth. We also sold them a lot of food and a lot of other mineral resources. And we asked that they pay for those things in gold. So we had a lot of gold pouring into our country. And then finally, our debt to GDP ratio was so small, it was hardly worth mentioning in the 1930s. Today, our debt to GDP ratio is 125%. Some people say it's higher, it's actually 130, but it's certainly climbing. It's not by any means being reduced. You put all of that together, and he's sitting on top of a very large ticking time bomb, politically, socially, culturally, financially, economically.
I mean, it's really hard to imagine that Americans support this, and most of them don't. And so you continue to see these market perversions, such as the 50-year mortgage, which will only increase the price of a house and enslave Americans for longer. Various sort of band-aids, but it's all a perversion of a natural financial system in order to rage these wars, and I think Americans are seeing it. So that is both the silver lining for us and the curse, the poison pill for the administration. It has to come to a head because we have to start to reject it. Is there any way we can do that other than just complaining here unprotected?
Well, someone sent me a chart this morning showing that 90% of the spending inside the United States is a function of 10% of the American population.
Right.
And if you look at the distribution of wealth, it's almost the same. And normally when you see that kind of thing, the word revolution springs to mind.
Yep.
Because when things collapse, when things fail, that's when people finally take to the streets. When you can't buy gas, when you can't get the food that you want, when the supply chains break down, that's when chaos breaks out. And that's when things change. I don't know how else to put it, because this sort of maldistribution of wealth gets worse with each passing day. And if you look at the White House right now and the people surrounding President Trump, they are a microcosm of what I'm describing. That's what you're seeing. Every time they manipulate the markets, what do you see happen? People walk out with wheelbarrows full of cash, all by shorting something, usually oil. So there is no easy way out, Natalie. I'm afraid that the only way out is the hard way. And at some point, we're going to see it. I don't know when it happens. I mean, you got to bring on Nassim Taleb, who invented the black swan, and maybe he can give you a better assessment there. But
yep,
the black swan is definitely going to take off. And when it does, it's going to be hell to pay. And I don't think right now most people in Washington are aware of it. If anything, they're delusional. They look at the markets. They don't see the danger. How you could miss it is beyond my imagination, but they really don't.
No, and I saw a report today saying we could see the markets going up 20, even 30% this year in the midst of all of this. So the rich will get richer, and the average Americans will get totally squeezed. And so many people in our chat room right now say the Colonel is spot on 100%. I've been saying this. Someone said, I've been saying this, God damn it. So in our chat room about a second American revolution that we're facing right now. It's unsustainable. It's going to fall on some president's lap at some point, whether it's Trump or the next person.
Yeah, but Trump, yeah, Oh my God, is he going to be unpopular when the economic pain of this hits over the summer? And it's not going to end at the end of the summer, even best case scenario. It's going to be big pain for the rest of the year too. It's just, I'm saying when the true pain is going to begin to be felt is this summer. Anyway, this will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch. And I'll see you next video. Bye.